I literally couldn't be more delighted with my next guest. She's had a stressful day. I won't go into it on air. But I'm delighted to be joined by Talk's international editor, the legend that is Isabel Oakeshott. Good afternoon. How are you?
Are you going to cheer me up? Have you got a way of cheering me up?
How was your... Are we allowed to say... Are we allowed to talk about why you were stressed? Or how did it go? Was it all right?
I wasn't stressed because my daughter was getting her ears pierced. That's a great thing. Have you got any piercings, Jeremy? Or should we not?
I have got a piercing, which you well know about, but it's not. I don't think we should be talking about it on air because we're trying to.
I don't know about it. What is this revelation?
Where is my piercing?
I didn't say that, but feel free to.
Of course, I haven't got a piercing. Christ, I can't even cut my toenails without crying. Have you got any piercings?
I've got 2 earrings and that's it.
Hey, good girl. Jodie's like that. She's going to say something outrageous. Isabel Oakeshott, I'm going to start slightly differently, right? I'm going to start slightly differently because this just came in. Nigel Farage, quite vocally this afternoon and this morning, has criticised this Home Office announcement from yesterday that we have immigration, I don't know why I'm doing the voice, under control. We have removed 19,000 illegal migrants. Here is some footage that we filmed. And then you see this big plane with what looks like quite a few people being led up by immigration officials, a bit like the American ones to Colombia, minus the shackles, I might just point out. I've added them. And then this astonishing story that's come out in the Telegraph in the last, hour or so, that flight that was filmed was an Airbus 321, which has a capacity of 220 passengers. What Labour did was film this plane. They only put 47 Albanian illegal migrants, who were convicted criminals, by the way, on this plane. Only 47 of them. This, by the way, was not a plan organised by Starmer, because we shouldn't give the Tories any credit, but they'd done a deal with the Albanians. So, in effect, what we're saying is that 47 Albanian prisoners got on a flight to Albania on Monday. And do you know how much this cost, Isabel Oakeshott? Any idea?
I'm guessing we're around about the £1 million.
£1 million, £22,000 per person. This is PR at its worst by our government spending taxpayers' money to try and convince us they've got this under control. What an absolute joke, Isabel, isn't it?
Complete and utter joke. These numbers are completely derisory relative to the scale of the problem, and this is Starmer massively on the back foot. His party is currently literally behind reform in the polls despite his enormous majority in the House of Commons. He's panicking, and they've rustled up this pathetic stunt. Well, taxpayers are not going to be deceived by this, are they? Taxpayers are entitled to be absolutely bloody furious that once again their intelligence is being insulted and their hard-earned cash is being squandered arranging exclusive private jet travel for Albanians who, let's be frank,
have broken the law. They've broken the law,
and what are they getting? 4 seats each or something on the private jet. What an absolute joke, and what a disgrace this government is.
Couldn't agree more. And you used a great word there, sceptical. It doesn't wash for me anymore for Starmer and his acolytes to stand up and say, these people don't understand how difficult it is, just sceptical right-wing thugs. No. This is our money that you're spending, and it's window dressing. I would rather that our government would do something about that. I mean, I know you're going to laugh. We laughed privately about this, but, yesterday we literally discover that it's possible, if you're a convicted criminal, to get a left-wing lawyer, paid for by you and me and everybody listening, to go to a court in front of a left-wing judge and say, I can't go back to Albania or wherever I came from. I know I've broken the law, but my son, he doesn't like the chicken nuggets in Albania. And people think I'm taking that he doesn't like the chicken. Today we discover a Pakistani paedophile escaped deportation because he successfully, through his left-wing lawyer, convinced the judge that it would harm psychologically his children. I don't mean to be rude. You're a mother, I'm a father. Forget the children he harmed and abused and raped. Forget them. An illegal migrant today got to stay in this country because she said her husband, with his skin issues, would find the Caribbean too hot. We're a laughing stock, Isabel. Seriously, we're in danger of becoming a bloody laughing stock. We really are.
But it's the voters that are crying over this, because we're the ones that have to face the consequences of having all these people in the country, in our country, who should not be here. And they're using it as some kind of hotel, despite the fact that many of these people that we're talking about here in these court cases actually have serious criminal records. Yes. And there is a reason that they're being deported. And I tell you, serious countries around the world do not do this to themselves. If somebody breaks the law, they get deported. It is as simple as that. They don't have the option to go bleating to some court and start saying, oh, they might get a bit of eczema in a different climate, or maybe, the frozen food offering isn't quite as good in wherever it may be, Somalia or Eritrea. If you break the law, you're out. You serve your time and you're out. And people are fed up to the back teeth of these loony lawyers who are in some way totally unable to connect with the British people on this.
We have one of them as our Prime Minister, Isabel, a loony left-wing lawyer who can't connect with the British people.
It sets the wrong tone right from the top, doesn't it? The whole thing rots from the top. That's what we're seeing.
It's really interesting today. I don't know if you've seen this. Have you? I've got this for you. This is highlights from my first 100 days. It's a new bestseller from Kemi Badenoch. Have you had a chance to look at this, Isabel?
Oh, you God. Are you serious?
Look.
Who's it? OK, that's all right then.
That's quite good. There's absolutely bugger all in it.
For a minute, I actually thought that she had written that.
No, there's nothing in it. Kemi Badenoch said today, she's been particularly quiet. We've been told, you know this, that she's sort of, working out what went wrong. You were liars. Working out what should happen in the future. You haven't got any new plans. Anyway, today she's come out and she's gone, any deal with Farage and those dreadful people at Reform is for the birds. Right, OK. For me, there seems to be, lots of Tories in a WhatsApp war over what to do. I think the narrative is wrong. We both know where our colours are nailed, but why I think the narrative is wrong is the Tories seem to still be in that misplaced mindset that if Labour mess up a lot, the Reform will just come and go, and in 3 or 4 years they'll all go, oh, please, can we have the Tories back? I don't think the Tory party, and I include its leader most definitely, is taking Reform UK seriously enough. Reform UK is going nowhere. As somebody just said, there feels like something real is happening in this country, and I think that's true.
I felt that Kemi Badenoch to say any deal is for the birds was extremely arrogant, because she didn't mean it as in, yeah, we the Tories should be so lucky. She meant it as, we're never going to do that because we're the Conservatives and we don't have to grub around with those deplorable people who are populist reformers. That's what she meant, and I've heard this for years from the Conservatives. They think that, they are in some way absolutely entitled to exist forevermore, and that they should never have to, really take any competition seriously. And Kemi, in one way, she's right. A deal is for the birds, because there is no way Nigel Farage is going to do a deal with Kemi Badenoch. That is never going to happen. This started over the weekend with a completely concocted story in the Mail on Sunday saying that there was going to be some kind of super party that amalgamated Reform and Boris Johnson. It was a completely made up piece of nonsense that has somehow managed to get some momentum this week when it's based on absolutely nothing, because the Reform Party leadership wants nothing to do with the Conservative Party. Of course, the Reform Party will take MPs from the Conservative Party who are good enough for Reform. They can defect if they want, but I don't think Reform is going to be kowtowing to the Conservatives. They are out to destroy the Conservatives, and frankly, the way Kemi Badenoch is running her leadership, that shouldn't be too difficult. It's
quite interesting for me. When I meant narrative, it seems to be that a lot of the verbal is from the Tory side. Oh, should we, shouldn't we? The Reform Party is simply getting on and doing what they said they would get on and do. I want to put something to you that somebody was talking about before. I was talking about how the blob, only 200 people lose their jobs when a government falls, 100 ministers, 100 special advisors. The blob, which has increased by 10,000 since Starmer, as wishful thinking, since Starmer came to power. This guy went, he used the birds. He said, you're talking rubbish, Jess, it's for the birds. There's no way that any politician in this country can arrive in 10 Downing Street and get rid of the blob. They will always control, nothing will happen. And you point to Donald Trump. And then if you're me, you want to say to anybody with a brain cell, maybe we need to find a politician who doesn't care about being attacked by the media, who doesn't care about threats from whatever part of the system doesn't like what they're going to do, but stands on the steps of 10 Downing Street and says, I got elected to rinse the blob. I got elected to make sure this, and it's going to happen. And if I last a week or a month or a year, I'm going to be true to my word to the British people. That is what the British people want. Whether that's Nigel Farage, whether it's Kemi Badenoch, whether it's that idiot that's there now, the British people are fed up, I think, with second-rate liars who don't do what they say they're going to do. That's how I see it.
So Liz Truss tried to do this, didn't she?
Yep.
She entered government trying to not only do her economic measures, which was so controversial, but she also wanted to cut a swathe through the blob. And one quick example was that they tried to fire the most senior civil servant in the Treasury. And all hell broke loose, as we all know. And ultimately, before not very long at all, she and her Chancellor were both ousted. So what's the difference next time round? Let's say Reform or another incredibly imaginative, creative party that might emerge from somewhere. I don't know what that would be. But anyway, let's say that they tried to do similar. Why wouldn't they suffer the same fate as Liz Truss? I think the answer is because Liz Truss was at the tail end of far too many years of failing Tory administrations. There was not the public appetite or support for her. It would be very different if a party like Reform had been swept into government on a mandate to do just this. And I think that they would try extremely hard to force it through. And I think people would have seen nothing like it.
Isabel, we're very honest. Can you hear a very strange noise from the studio?
No, what is that?
I feel like I'm being invaded. It's a really, really bizarre. No, there's a. Look.
Really?
Stop now. So honestly, you see what's happening? It's old age. It's my 60th year. Going back to what you were saying, it's all gone a bit weird. I agree. Maybe I'm idealistic. It's going to take. Should the will of the people not be greater than the system that it represents? I don't know. I just think that most people with a brain cell know that unelected civil servants on ridiculous salaries who seemingly are unsackable. Somebody said to me the other day, you can't sack that person. I am turning into my father. If they're crap at their job or they don't do what you tell them and you're paying their salary, why can't you get rid of them? What is wrong with that?
Yeah, well, I think that that is something that has to be tested, isn't it? Far too many people say, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. You can't test international law by turning back the boats. You can't, we hear this all the time, don't we? You can't change certain international agreements. What about the Chagos thing? Oh, apparently we can't defy a recommendation from some international authority about the Chagos Islands. I say let's give it a go and let's see if the sky falls in, because I kind of guess it probably won't. And if it's an expensive experiment, well, doing what we're doing at the moment is sure as hell pretty damn expensive. Maybe spend the money in a better way, trying out and seeing if there's a way out of it.
Breaking news, and you must respond, our international talk editor right now. This just in, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responding to Hamas at this time yesterday saying the ceasefire's been broken, we won't be releasing any more hostages. Donald Trump overnight says you've got till 12 noon on Saturday or hell will break loose. Just now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that if Hamas does not return hostages by noon on Saturday, he doesn't say all, he says hostages, the ceasefire will end and the military will return to intense fighting until Hamas is defeated. The one thing I would pick out of that, he doesn't say all the hostages. Trump said that, but that's the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu just responding. If Hamas does not continue the return of hostages by noon on Saturday, the ceasefire will end. Isabel Oakeshott, your response, please.
Well, very sharp of you to pick up on that wiggle room there. He's allowing Hamas to perhaps just release one or two. between now and then, but it's certainly a very dramatic escalation. You know, I think I was on with you when the ceasefire was first declared, and we were exercising quite a lot of caution at the time. It's proven to be even more fragile, I think, than one feared at that time. For it to have apparently disintegrated this quickly is deeply disappointing. At least we have got some of the hostages returned, but that will be of little consolation to the relatives of those that are still in captivity, either alive or their bodies have not been released to their loved ones.
Chris Parry, Rear Admiral Chris Parry, was on the show yesterday. He was quite outspoken. I'd love your take on this. He said, I'm just being honest, the outroar internationally, and quite right, on the state of those hostages that were released last week and the disgusting game that Hamas played. Oh, are you looking forward to seeing your wife and daughter? Because, by the way, when you get in the real world, you'll discover they're dead. I mean, vile, absolutely vile. He wondered, he threw it in, Chris Parry, yesterday, as to whether there are any more alive or whether they want to buy a bit of time to try and make them look less. I mean, destroyed would be the best example I can give. I don't know. But Netanyahu...
I don't think they care.
You what?
I don't think these monsters care how broken their captives are when they are released. But I think that the bigger question is where the hell does this all end? Because Trump's real estate idea is just not getting any traction from neighbouring countries. And I see that he's now threatening to withdraw US aid to countries like Jordan if they don't agree to take a load of refugees. He's
actually right now in the White House, because I've just seen this, with the King of Jordan. So they presumably are talking about that. I mean, what did you make of his suggestion about Gaza? That was a bit ludicrous, wasn't it? Or am I missing the point?
Nobody is taking it seriously in the region. Conversation has now moved to, is the two-state solution dead? And I think, around the region, people just can't see how the two-state solution can work. What's the point of continuing to do and try for what we've been trying to get for the last few decades to no avail? So perhaps a way forward, some are saying, is some kind of semi-autonomous region that Gaza would become. A bit like devolution, but it would still have to be under the auspices of Israel. Is Hamas going to agree to that? I mean, it would be a pretty hard sell, wouldn't it? Because all they would see would be Israel being on at the top of the tree there.
Completely.
So I don't know where this goes, but no way good at this point.
Really good to have you on. I know you've had a stressful day, and I'm glad the ear piercing went well. Thank you so much indeed. The legend that is Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor, 522. So that breaking news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just said that if Hamas does not return hostages by noon on Saturday, the ceasefire will end and the military will return to intense fighting. I did pick that out because he says does not return hostages by noon on Saturday. Or remember, the original ceasefire deal said, you give us 3 hostages every week, says Israel, you can have hundreds of convicted murderers. I know, doesn't make sense, but that was the deal. Trump said overnight, all the hostages by midday on Saturday, or all hell will break loose. He did say, though, it's up to Israel. But there's room for manoeuvre. Isabel is absolutely right. Does not return hostages by noon on Saturday. 1, 2, the remaining all, I've no idea.